Hey, it's me, AndyB. Do we really need a successor to the Switch right now? Let's babble on about that. Normally I would have the studio all set up and I'd be standing here talking to you guys, but I feel like this conversation is a little better if we dial it down a little bit and I sit down. So let's get that set up. There we go, that's a little better. I wanted to sit down for this video because I wanted it to be a little bit more personal. I didn't want to put on the same little antics I normally do for most of my videos where I'm laughing, giggling, stuff like that, because this conversation is a little more serious in my personal opinion. But before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe down below for more Nintendo videos, JRPG, Mario, Pokemon, etc, etc. Welcome to AndyB Plays Games. I can't talk. So anyway, this conversation popped up the other night when I recorded and we had the privilege of being on my good friend Jay's podcast, Cold Nights Gaming Podcast, where we talked a lot about Nintendo. So one of the things that came up was, do we need a new Nintendo Switch? Whether it's Switch 2, a successor, revision, etc, etc. And guess what? I don't think we do. Now, here's the reason why. So look at the games that we have that came out in 2022, okay? Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Game ran amazing, flawlessly, perfect, and there was juggling a lot of different things on the screen. 8 different playable characters with different menus going on, multiple different enemies on the screen at the same time, and the games ran pretty freaking fantastic. Crisis Core, freaking awesome game on the Nintendo Switch. Surprised myself with that one because I didn't expect the Switch to run it that great. And it did. It was awesome. It was fantastic. It looked just as good, if not the same, as the PS4 and PS5 counterpart. So I'm confused. Is it because of Pokemon? Because we all know that that was not Nintendo and the Switch's hardware limitations. We know that, right? You're not that stupid, are you? Like, you've seen the conversations, right? Like, people on the internet are clearly just out of their minds when they sit there and say that the reason Pokemon failed so much was because of the Nintendo Switch and its hardware. No, that was totally on Game Freak. They just didn't have the crunch. I mean, they were under crunch. They didn't have the time to get the video done or make the game done in the way that they wanted to make it because they're under so much pressure with having to make the games coincide with the anime, coincide with the card game. There's just too much going on. And besides, they were just working on Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is funny because it ran better than Scarlet and Violet. So that was not the Nintendo Switch's fault. It was not the hardware's fault. I just don't understand how you could sit there and say that when we know what the problem was. And I'm not knocking those games. If you check out my reviews, I really enjoy those games. And it's wild to me that we can sit there and say that the Switch is lagging in spec. I just don't understand. Yeah, we know that the Switch isn't up to date with PlayStation and Xbox. They've never been. None of the Nintendo consoles prior in the past, maybe besides the GameCube, was the only one that could stand toe-to-toe with some of those other consoles. Because that's just not what Nintendo wants to do. They're not that company. They've never really been that company. They care more about making quality video games, and they do time and time again, whether it's first-party games like their main series like Kirby. Forgotten Land was amazing. Obviously Legend of Zelda, we saw Breath of the Wild, we saw how great that was. Any Mario game on the Switch, whether it's the sports games, granted they're lacking content, they're still fantastic games to play. They run so smooth. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the game that came out originally on the Wii U 10 years ago, still runs so great. I know this because my wife and I play it damn near every single night. We're also looking at other games like Metroid Dread, which is so good, runs perfectly. So why do we need a Switch 2? Why are you trying to make and force Nintendo's hand so badly when it's not broke? You know, don't fix what's not broke, or whatever that saying is, because the Switch is continuing to sell really well. In fact, according to this article that Bloomberg just posted, they're actually ramping up Nintendo Switch production for 2023. So I think that kind of goes to show that they're not even really considering a new console this year. Now, I know there was an article that had popped up a little earlier this year. Actually, oh, it's 2023 already, sorry. Last year, at the end of 2022, that said that there was probably going to be some like revision, you know, instead we got the OLED because there were some kind of constraints on the chip shortage and stuff like that. I understand that, but there was still no Switch 2. There was no Switch successor. It was a revision, which makes sense because, you know, it was out for so long, but it's still selling. And they're onward to track and beat the PlayStation 2 for best console of all time. They're gonna hit that before the next Switch comes out. As much as I would like a Switch 2, because I love my Nintendo Switch and I'm going to get it no matter what, I just don't think it's necessary at this moment. But hey, you know what? have your opinion, I'll have mine at the end of the day. I just wanted to kind of sit here and talk about that. But, you know, thank you guys so much for joining in. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.